Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 139. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. I'm streaming live right now on TikTok, on Instagram, and over on YouTube. Hit that like button if you are streaming this on any one of those. If you are seeing this on repeat over there on YouTube, hit that like button too. Drop a comment if you're there. If you're on over on TikTok and Instagram, head over to YouTube at some point in time and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Nathan Spring on YouTube. The benefit there is you could see any of these lives that you may have missed, because in case you didn't notice, when I said Mindful Live 139, that suggests there are 138 others. Yeah. So with that, you could head over to my YouTube channel and you can subscribe there. You'll catch the other lives, and there are other videos that pop up every now and again. At one point in time, there were daily YouTube videos too, like about 20 minutes long. So there are still some of those, and soon they may be back. They may be back as soon as the scheduling and everything is ordered. Fax, he's a good person to show you. Good. Now, tonight, it's brought to you the Mindful Live. Our sponsor tonight is Mindful Education. Mindful with 2Ls_education over there on Instagram. Head over there. That is the educational institution that I run. What we do offer are pod learning classes, learning pods, where you teach homeschool style teaching, not the classroom style particularly, homeschool style teaching, where we're aiming at a different approach to the subject areas, covering more of the same ground but hitting it from another angle, where you have smaller classes. They are in-person classes, no more generally than 6 people per class, so you have that more personal interaction. The children get to know each other, they get to know their tutors and their teachers, so you have that closer interaction. If you are interested in that, head over to Mindful Education and follow us there. The information and registration is over there too. If you're interested, we also offer private tutoring. That's the normal processing delay for YouTube. The YouTube is lagging a few seconds behind. Yes, that's what goes on with YouTube. YouTube always does that. Now, YouTube, the reason I believe YouTube does that is so that they can cut you. They can cut you. If I'm talking here on YouTube and I'm saying something that goes against YouTube's policy, I will say it live, and before it goes out, before it streams out to the masses over there on YouTube, their algorithm will pick it up and chop it off, and there won't be any of that beaming out there. So YouTube isn't playing any of that. Oh, gee, I'm no longer a colonizer. The colonizer rule has gone. The mustache is now plain and simple. There are delays sometimes between transferring data. Yes, there are those delays too, but it's the same live stream running on TikTok and Instagram, but they run live with live time, while the YouTube runs live on its own time. Anyway, we're talking this evening about mad scientists at it again. These mad scientists are at it again. Like, listen, we're now coming out of the COVID pandemic. Yo, Nisi, what's up? We're now coming out of this COVID pandemic. And these scientists, they're ridiculous. Like, give us an ease. You know, one of the problems with scientists is that some of them, like, they have nothing to do. And there is quite a lot of science that has probably no great positive benefit and may have a lot of negatives attached to it. If you're wondering what I am talking about, well, over in Boston, some scientists were up to that naughty behavior that may have possibly, thank you, Roger Sugrim, that name sounds very familiar, Mr. Sugrim. They were up to, happy Monday, thank you, Megzi. They were up to their usual naughty behavior, and let's head over to that article. Exclusive from Daily Mail. It's not only on Daily Mail. Daily Mail has some sketchy stuff when they're ready. This is playing with fire. It could spark a lab-generated pandemic. Experts slam Boston lab where scientists have created a new deadly COVID strain with an 80% kill rate. Why? Researchers added Omicron's spike protein to the original Wuhan COVID strain. Omicron spike is highly mutated, which made it the most infectious variant ever. 8 in 10 mice infected with the lab-created strain died at Boston University lab. Jeez. Daily Mail is inflammatory. Yes, they are inflammatory. They phrase things like that, but this news is corroborated. This isn't only over there. Oh, there's a Boston article. You could check it out. Boston University. Sunset Sensei is saying, well, yes, you create it, so you know how to deal with it. Prevention is better than cure. Okay, that is the excuse that they say, actually. That is the excuse. They're always talking about that. They're always talking about that you know, the reason they do this kind of research, the reason they want to make viruses more powerful, the reason is so that they can understand these viruses. And once they understand the viruses, then if it does happen just like that, then they would be able to, you know, actually deal with it. Now, I have several problems with that. Firstly, many scientists, many experts in the field regularly point out that a lot of the variations that they create in the lab have a very, very low chance of being naturally created. So it's not like they're testing something that has a high likelihood of even happening. So you are creating the greatest danger. There's a higher chance that what you create can leak out of the lab than the possibility of naturally this thing evolving and you're getting this variation. So I don't buy it on that end in the first place. Then secondly, we're seeing they were doing the same thing in Wuhan. Just by the way, the COVID pandemic, the original Wuhan version of that COVID virus, was released mere miles next to a lab in Wuhan that was studying bat coronaviruses and that was doing research on bat coronaviruses. The same kind of research and development on bat coronaviruses, very similar to the bat coronavirus that COVID is. But just by the way, they assure us that this virus was not released from that lab. Okay? The virus that is a bat coronavirus that has some unique variations on it did not release from the bat corona lab that was less than a mile away from the first spot it was found. And that's what we are to believe, right? So we are to believe that. And now what they are doing is, so the way most viruses function, this is Virology 101. I like biology. The way most viruses function is as they mutate, they generally become more infectious but less deadly. If I am a virus, I want to be able to transfer to as many people as I can in as quick a time as possible. My aim as a virus is not to kill people. My aim as a virus is to multiply. That's the aim of nearly every living anything, organism, virus, bacteria. Most living organisms, their general aim, the aim of life, is to carry on, to propagate itself, for life to reproduce. That's why humans that are anti-natalist, I find that so strange, like the people that are anti-children, like, give us an ease up. That's the purpose of life in the basic extent. So, the purpose of the virus, what the virus wants to do is reproduce. I want to make as many of myself as I can if I am this little dirty virus out there. So what I want to do is I want to do things that will make me replicate more and more. What would make me replicate is if I can transfer from one person to the next. That's what makes a virus replicate. Now, the problem with that, if I am a little filthy virus out there, is that I'm a filthy virus and I tend to kill people. So if I kill people before that person gets to cough me out onto someone else, then I die too. I kind of need the people to live. So I do not want, if I'm a virus, I do not want to kill people too quickly. In fact, really, if I'm a virus, I don't really need to kill people. The people could live for my part. So as the virus evolves over time, as it mutates over time, what generally happens, generally to viruses, is that the variations become more infectious, meaning that they transfer from person to person easier and easier because that's what the virus wants, but they also become less deadly. So that's basically how we have something like the what may have been the Spanish flu way back when that killed quite a few thousands of people, basically now has become a common flu that could just pass through the society every now and again, and you're like, okay, maybe if someone is sickly they have a bad bout, or it's not that bad. It becomes much more infectious but much less deadly. So these worthless scientists over there in Boston, what they decided to do with their good time is take the first original alpha strain of the virus, which would have been much more deadly but not nearly as infectious. Remember, it gets more infectious but less deadly over time. So you take the one at the start, so you get the most deadly. And then they come down to Omicron and take Omicron spike protein, and Omicron was the most infectious. And then they combine those from the first and from Omicron to get it both very infectious and very deadly. Like, yay, we really needed this in the world right now. This was what the world needed. Boston University scientists were today condemned for playing with fire after it emerged they had created a lethal new COVID strain in a laboratory. It was revealed that they created a hybrid virus combining Omicron and the original Wuhan strain that killed 80% of mice in a study. The revelation exposes how dangerous virus manipulation research continues to go on, even in the US, despite fears similar practices may have started the pandemic. These guys may have started the pandemic and they're still doing the same nonsense. I will be very upset. I will be very upset. It will be so upsetting if we go through all of this and still come back on the other side and they drop another nonsense like this. They're talking about, they do these things so that they can know how to deal with it. Well, did they know how to deal with the last one? Was the last one dealt with so concisely, so effectively? Because that's what they were doing research for. If you were doing the research to know how to deal with it, I'd have supposed that you'd have known how to deal with it by now. So you're not figuring out how to deal with it better. You're doing dangerous research and creating the danger in the first place. Listen, let's just ease up on this, please. Please, like, go back to studying something less dangerous. If you know anything, you know that we know very little. A lot of our education are just theories, right? Yes, that is very true. A lot of education, a lot of knowledge is basically theories, but that's not to say we know nothing. But compared to all that we can know, I'll say yes, we know very little. And there's a lot of hubris in science. In science, there's so much hubris, the inflation of the self-thinking of yourself too highly, as if you are capable of much more than you actually are. And science has so much of that, where many people inside of science believe that, with their knowledge, they are capable of controlling so many things, so many different things, or science alone may be able to control. Nah. I don't actually think that's true. Bill Gates has too much money and trying to be God. The truth is, a lot of this does have a lot to do with Mr. Bill. Mr. Bill looks for the problems he finds himself in. I don't feel too sorry for Mr. Bill. He looks for those problems he finds himself in. Like, so he goes out there. Mr. Gates has a TED talk where he speaks about believing the earth has too many people on it. He's one of those. He believes the earth has too many people. Overpopulation is a serious problem. I believe if you get them to get down to an accurate number, they want the earth to have somewhere around 500 million people only, something like that. Many of them in that realm talk about. Bear in mind, we are closing in on what, 8 billion now? So if you're talking 500 million, that's 7.5 billion people less. You got to do something with a lot of people there. Now, I find it very strange that this man who is out there all over talking about there are too many people on the earth living, when he suddenly wants to go in Africa with a new version of corn that someone of his companies invented and distribute corn to all the Africans. Like, I get suspicious. When he wants to be in charge of healthcare, I get suspicious. Now, the man may have really virtuous intentions. I do not know for sure. I just find it kind of strange. If your stated view is that the world has too many people, I don't know how you go on feeding these people. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? I saw recently there was some bacchanal down south where they were saying the dogs in San Fernando, that the San Fernando Corporation was killing the dogs. They were killing out the dogs, they were saying, in San Fernando. And they were alleging 7,000 dogs were killed in San Fernando. They were killing people's pets, etc., etc., etc. Now, it turns out that in reality, the number was much smaller. It was 440 something, I believe, over the course of nearly 6 years. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was a lengthy period of time. But anyway, the story in that is, imagine if I see, if I am elected as the mayor of San Fernando. Let's use San Fernando. And in my election, I kept saying that there are too many dogs on the streets in San Fernando. There are too many dogs on the streets in San Fernando. There are just too many stray dogs all over the city. I really don't find that the stray dogs should be around here. Okay. If I keep saying that, and then when I get elected, I say, well, as a plan, I want to feed all of the stray dogs in San Fernando. Listen, I would advise the stray dogs, don't eat that food. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of strange that the guy that finds there are too many people in the world is out there trying to feed people and take care of their health care. Something seems a little like it isn't lining up perfectly. It is not lining up perfectly. I don't know. Now, there is a side of this where he is upfront with some of what he says, and the idea with some of it is that what has been found is, as you educate women more and more, you uplift women in society more and more, less children are born. So part of his strategy to enacting that fewer humans business is going into places where there are many children being born and get education, get development into those areas. You educate the women more, and generally, as women become more uplifted in those kinds of societies, less children are born. Now, that's such a strange thing when I think about it. That's such a dichotomy, a dilemma, because you have this man. If you take the stripped down version of what he believes, if you take the stripped down version of exactly what he believes, he's saying that some of these people should not be on this planet. They aren't the ideal people to be on this planet. It's a kind of eugenics business. So if you're looking at it from that view, in some of these less developed countries, He's coming in here and educating the women, the girls, which is a good thing. He's uplifting their standard of living, which is a good thing. But he is doing it with the intention of there being less of this kind of people in the future. Yes, he is doing a good thing here, but the intention is he wants to see less of you people in the future. Strange thing. Very strange thing. Personally, I don't trust those folks. And I don't believe the world is overpopulated. Now, I do believe that if you're in poverty, one of the worst things you could do is make too many children. That's kind of obvious. And making children outside of a well structured family is a very difficult thing, but at the same time, I don't subscribe to this whole world being overpopulated business. If you listen to the people that say the world is overpopulated, they have been saying that for quite some time now. There was a man who made a bet back in the 50s or 60s that by the 80s we would be starving and people would be on top of each other, etc. The world population did grow exponentially, more than he thought, but poverty rates went down. The amount of people living with food insecurity went down. More people are eating food now than ever before. You see the nature of humanity is what the human genius is that the more we multiply, the more people there are. What that allows for is specification, specialization. People could go into little special areas, little niches, and the more people there are, the more niched we can get. So you could have someone now, the only thing this person does is cut toenails. Like, when you really think about that, if you go back in time 6,000 years ago, and try to explain to someone now trying to eke out a living farming really hard situation somewhere there in the Levant area out there in Middle East, Northern Africa or something, and you tell them, well, in the future there are people just clipping toenails and painting them with dyes, and they're millionaires from doing that. That's all they do, clip toenails and paint them. But the reason that can happen is because of the amount of people, and the amount of people pushes the ingenuity. We have to figure out ways to grow things more efficiently. I don't subscribe to the overpopulation thing. I think the more people we have, the more ingenuity we would engender. The problem isn't the number of people, it's the heart of the people, the mindset of the people. That's the problem. Money is our creation. We are free to change the rules at any time. Yes, that is true. But I don't understand what's the correlation there per se. It is our creation, but money is a representation of value. So while money is our creation and we could change the rules, we would kind of always need something to represent value. If you've done something of value to me, we would want some way for us to recognize, hey, this was the thing valuable you did, and we have it in writing. So that's what money is. Didn't China just announce they want to move back to using gold as the standard? I'm not sure about that, but I know a lot of those countries are looking to get into cashless. So no physical banking, where everything is online. You have your central bank digitalized coins, the digital money. Now, digital money is very useful. It's very practical, very useful in the modern world, especially. But it's scary because digital money means that the government, the authorities know every single thing you spend your money on. They could control every single thing you spend your money on because they have control over it in that system. Maybe you do something bad and the government says, well, you cannot buy alcohol for the next 3 months, and you literally cannot buy alcohol for the next 3 months. You can't go out there with cash and ask someone. No, it's digital. It's a digital currency. So when you go and show them your app and you try to flash your app, a ban comes up. There's a There's a ban on this person buying alcohol. Phew. Digital currency is the currency of the future, they say, but that is scary. From the moment you're talking about centralized control of money, like if you think about it, there was some news that came out this week. Now PayPal, they backtrack on that real fast. They reversed on that real fast. But PayPal, which is an online money controller, they send money, receive money, etc. Fintech, they had a new release where they came out recently and said that, you know what, we are now going to fine you for misinformation. If they find you guilty of misinformation, they could charge you $2,500. Now, bearing in mind that some people, their entire livelihood is online. That's how they make their life, online. All their money passes through there. So if you say something that they don't like, they could take your money from you. Now, after they said that, people started to take their money out of PayPal. The people unregistered from PayPal, their stock started to dive, and all of a sudden PayPal ran in and said, well, wait, that was actually a mistake. We didn't mean to send out that release. That was not the intention. That's not our new policy, but it's what they said. And when you think about things like that is clear. That would clearly be in a government's interest. A government would clearly have an interest in being able to control what you spend your money on. That would obviously be in the government's interest. And when you see, like, our government here in Trinidad and Tobago, they're able and willing to, on a moment's notice, change all of our money from the cotton note to the plastic note we have now, and throw the economy under the bus in a certain way. Certain parts of the economy, people who are living on that cash side, now you have to run in there and let them know everything you have. Well, yeah, if they are willing to do that, you don't think a government that would be willing to do that would be very interested in having a currency that they can control totally? The Mr. Would Have Love. Well, he can listen to it still. It's over on YouTube. It shows the power of the people. Correct though, Jerome. That is very correct. That thing with PayPal shows exactly that. The power of the people. The people are able to rewind that. They're able to rewind that. You have a policy stated there, and just by the fact that people are like, you know what, we aren't dealing with that, the policy has to be reversed. That's the power of the people. And that's when people are willing to do that. Now, a lot of that power of the people comes about through social media. The power of the people has a lot to do with the people communicating with each other, the people being able to, on a moment's notice, share that information. So whoever it was read that little fine print inside of PayPal, new terms, they were able to broadcast that, and then the people there were able to broadcast that, and then the people there were able to broadcast that, and it went out widely, in a quick time. Now, here's the thing. If people get into the places of power where they are able to clamp down on the information being shared on social media, because that's basically what PayPal was aiming at in the first place. That whole thing about misinformation and disinformation is controlling the information being shared. So if they are able to control the information being shared, I think a lot of the powers that be regret getting the internet so free, allowing the internet to be so free. They cannot control things the same way they once did. They just cannot. Once upon a time, a political candidate could have been a drunkard. And once you have enough of the media in your pocket, no one is going to write a story about that. No one is ever going to get information about that. That's going to remain on the low. But now, social media, you slip up, there's going to be a viral video of you. You could have just some random person sitting down in a room in their house talking about your political affairs anyway to tens of people, to hundreds of people even. That's something the internet allowed. And I think a lot of them are not happy about that. They are not happy about that. And yes, they have been trying to reverse the freedom of the internet for some time now. And the whole idea that came about during this COVID pandemic, particularly in the disinformation and misinformation and clamping down on that. And a lot of people bought into that, not understanding that that's actually ridiculous and dangerous. I don't want people to not be able to say their misinformation. So if you believe that COVID-19 was from 5G, from the 5G cell towers, and that's how the COVID-19 was spreading, so by all means come on the internet and be able to see it. If you believe the earth is flat, by all means come on the internet and see it. If you believe that men didn't go to the moon, see it on the internet. I don't mind. What goes on with some people, they don't understand that the ideas you find are ridiculous and are bad and that should be banned, you're not always going to be the person in control of it. And maybe some of the ideas you have, some people may find ridiculous and bad, and they may want your idea banned. So here's what we're going to do. We'll ban no ideas and allow the best ideas to win. So the people who speak the best ideas, you are free to listen to them. So when you come up on TikTok on an evening, you could see all the different live streams. You could click on my live stream and say, hey, this guy makes sense. I like his ideas and I'll listen to him. Or you could not click on my live stream. And if I talk nonsense, then no one is going to listen to me and I'll be talking to myself. And fine, let me fill up the internet with random rantings of madness. But where are the philosophers? Find the philosophers. I'll consider myself a philosopher. Isn't a lot of what we're talking about philosophy to some extent? Now, here's an idea for philosophy, as you say philosophy. What do you think about child labor? Ministry beefs up checks after reports of child labor. The Ministry of Labor has said it has received multiple reports of children under 16 working, with several incidents across Trinidad and one in Tobago. It shared a perception survey on its social media pages and with its stakeholders to investigate child labor. The survey was geared towards raising awareness and gathering information on incidents, perceptions, and beliefs on child labor. In a media release, the ministry said its Labor Inspectorate Unit is beefing up its monitoring and investigative activities regarding child labor. It said the ministry is working closely with the Children's Authority and other agencies to provide the relevant support. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child outlines that children have rights to access education, rest and play, and to be protected from exploitation. In this regard, the ministry reminds parents and employers that it is against the law to have a child under 16 working. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Do you think it should be against the law for a child under 16 to work? I don't really agree with that, you know. Like, I agree with the general statement they gave from the UN Convention on Children. The rights of children, fine. Children should have the right to and access to education, rest, and play, and not be exploited. I think all four of those could still be followed and a child be allowed to work. Good night, Michael Sill. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Can you pass today? Just messaging people loud. It needs tweaking. Canute who? Who is Canute? Do you mean Canute Sig Trigger, the guy usually in the live? Nobody asked if the children are also being educated or getting paid or have parents' permission. Exactly, Udo. That's my point. I am against forced labor. Yes, forced labor, definitely not. But a child under 16, listen, I don't think there should be an age limit, really and truly, especially if I have a business. If I have let me just say a business and it sounds too sophisticated. If I have a parlor, I have a shop, a mini mart, my daughter reaches 5, 6. Wow, that's very unfortunate to hear then. Condolences to his loved ones. Yeah, and my daughter reaches 6. If I want my daughter to go and sell and learn how to give people some correct change, and go and pick up the tin of peas and carrots in the corner and bring it for Tanti. Like, why not? What is the harm in that? You know, this is something I always talk about, where I recognize a problem we fall into is attempting to, and I phrase it as this, legislate morality. You see, who was it? I believe it was Nietzsche who announced that God is dead. And in him saying that, when he said that, his philosophy of saying that was, the idea was more that the West killed God and there would be lots of blood spilled because of this. And his idea was something like this, where if you don't have a moral framework outside of politics, we're talking a moral framework that, for the extent of human history, was based on a religious framework for the most part. If you don't have that, then what is required is for the state to be able to stipulate exactly what that morality is. So the state then has to go through there and put a law down for every possible moral situation. We're seeing some problems in this, even in things as, well, that used to be as simple as the human sexual interactions, where something like consent, and now the idea of consent has become so mired and so murky, because people are talking about, they're in some universities and some institutions, they have an idea about affirmative consent, where for every new step in the act of intercourse, every new step, you have to get an affirmative consent. So you have to ask the question and the person has to answer you in the affirmative. Yes. So, can I touch you on your shoulder? Yes. Can I move my hand from the shoulder to this place? Yes. Can I now squeeze that? Yes. Can I do that? Yes. May I? Yes. Yes. That sounds like a lot of unnecessary conversation in the middle of the business. But that's what happens when the general morality that was supposed to govern outside human behavior has been lost. So now you have to have legal stipulations for all of these moral situations. But doesn't the state define morality? No, the state does not. You see, it's according to what you consider the state. In Western civilization, the way our civilizations were formed, they were formed with that Judeo-Christian principle, and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God's what is his. The idea being that separation. And that meaning the state is to control the matters of running the state, of running the polity, of running the services that benefit everyone. While morality was to be governed by someone's conscience. Yes, Massimo, I always forget those over there, thanks. While the morality was to be governed by one's conscience and one's God. Separate. So no, the state isn't supposed to control morality. He was right, I believe, because the bad mustache man and bad Soviet man rose up. Yes, he was right. Also, bad Chinese man also rose up. The state became God, and it's very much ingrained in our society today. Yes, yes, yes. Agree with everything said there, Mantis Shadow. Every single thing said there. It's the problem of the modern time. And I am seeing it in something as simple as this child labor. I understand what the intention of the child labor laws are supposed to be. Is drugs wrong and sugar right? The state frames our morality. The state can frame morality, but bear in mind, for one, the state frames morality based on the cumulative moral goals of the people. The state is a representation of the people. So we all vote for who we want in the leadership of our government, of our state. And then they, representing us, would make laws based on our group morality. So yes, the state does frame the morality, but the state doesn't determine the morality. The idea of at least the Western concept of governance is that God sits even above the state. No man is above God. God sits even above the state. So the state, all the politicians, their morality should still be governed or subject to God, the concept. That's what it always was. There has always been an issue of Caesar worship or Baal Lord worship or Moloch king worship. Yes, yes. And not just worship but sacrifice too. They sacrifice. If we go down that road about the Moloch sacrifices, there gets into part of the internet's favorite conspiracy theory rabbit holes. But yeah, trying to legislate morality ends us up in situations like this where we have a law that a child under 16 cannot work. And things like that, laws like that, do not benefit the average citizen. Those laws do not benefit the average citizen. Those laws almost always benefit those in power. Because what generally happens when you end up having law upon law upon law upon law, legislating morality, what happens is none of these laws are always enforced. This 16-year-old law business cannot always be enforced. We all know this. There's no way they are always going to enforce the no working before 16. They're going to pass by a parlor, they'll see somebody's child helping them out, they're not going to do something about that. They're going to pass by a market vendor, the market vendor offloading their van, they have their child there with them helping them, they're not going to do anything about that. But what that creates, the situation that creates, is it creates in an environment where you can always be oppressed because you are always breaking some law. The people that are in charge of enforcing the law end up getting an outsized amount of power because they are always able to victimize you, because you are always transgressing some law, because there are just so many laws. They could come up to you today and they want you to do something separate, but they could threaten you with the breaking of some random law that you are obviously breaking because there are just so many of them. It's like our road traffic laws. When a police or a licensing officer stops you, nearly 100% sure they could charge you for something if they really want to. It acts as a catch-all to utilize the power to incriminate persons they dislike. Yup. So, I guess some of y'all, those of y'all in the chat, y'all are more with me on that one. That no work for the under 16s is dead. And another matter of morality, and another matter of legislating morality, out from Jamaica. This news isn't this week. This is from since last week. What free speech? Jamaica bans some music and TV shows. Jamaica's broadcasting regulator is being criticized of moving to curb free speech after it banned music and TV broadcasts deemed to glorify or promote criminal activity, violence, drug use, scamming, and weapons. The government has said the ban is meant to cut back on material that could give the wrong impression that criminality is an accepted feature of Jamaican culture and society. So, what y'all think about that one? What y'all think about that one? They're banning the music and the TV shows that promote the badness. Now, something I find interesting in this. The government is doing the ban because they want to cut back on material. This is a quote from them that could give the wrong impression that criminality is an accepted feature of Jamaican culture and society. Now, if the art that your society is displaying shows a depiction of society, should you stop them from producing the art that shows that depiction, or change the depiction from being the reality? You understand what I'm saying? If a youth come out from Silas, and he is singing that every day for his life he had to tote a gun and rob people to make money, and that's what he did, and police couldn't stop him, and he was paying an inspector, and he had a man in his back pocket, and da 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 da. Should we ban the music, or should we be looking at the fact that this is the reality being lived by some of the youth? You're understanding? It's not like they're trying to treat the cause. They're trying to treat something that is one of the most outward ends of the symptoms. If the general society wasn't interested in the music, then making the music would not have mattered. The words of being a gunman and being a bad man, those words always existed. Those aren't new words recently added to the English vocabulary. Those words always existed. So why didn't people always sing those same types of songs? Because the society didn't always exist like that. The society where those types of songs would be received didn't always exist. I recall sometime I was traveling in a taxi and I was listening to one of these Trinidad dancehall. I can't remember if it was Trinidad. I think it could have been a Jamaican dancehall song. And I'm listening, and like every 2 words is a cuss. And okay, I understand you're trying to cuss because that's your artistic expression. I'm thinking like, who is finding this entertainment? Who is listening to this? This man is cussing me, berating me, insulting me, and I'm going to listen to this in my headphones. I'm listening to you are so stupid, you are idiot, and I am richer than you, and you're dumb and poor, and all the women like. I'm walking along the road with this in my earphones playing continuously through my ear. Why would I be interested in that? But the fact is, there are some people who are. There are some people who are. The Nigerian community. Well, in Nigeria, Udo, as you're saying there, isn't he singing about something factual that is going on? So do you ban the music, or do you try to stop the actions? And would the ban on the music actually be effective? Especially with the internet being what it is. Especially with the internet being what it is. Is it possible to bring those horses back into the stable? Is it possible? Like our Trinidad dancehall artists. Look at the ones that were there at the beginning. Swanee, Plumpy, K-Lion, Rebel 6, those guys, their main popularity, did it come from getting played on the radio or TV? I'm talking about the early ones, not necessarily the biggest, but the ones in the earlies that started off early. Did their popularity come from radio plays? No. Rebel 6's main popularity, I find, would have come from his online presence, the lives that he did. I was going to use a different adjective, but this very energetic one, young brother. Young brother was big on the internet before he became big on the radio. Being big on the internet is the reason he became big on the radio. Yeah, I'm following up on exactly that, Udo. They became big on the internet, and the reason they were big on the radio is because they were big on the internet. Listen, I wouldn't doubt that this could actually have the reverse action, the reverse consequence, where you were aiming to decrease the amount of young people that listen to the bad music. What you might end up doing is decrease the amount of young people that listen to the radio. Because you're going to play music and content they aren't interested in, and they're going to find the content on the internet. The radio is already a dying medium. The radio is already dying. That might put some of the final nails in the coffin. That's what that might do. And the fact is, internet radio is increasing too. People could be driving down the road and taking in Spotify, plug in the auxiliary jack, and you have YouTube playing. You don't need radio. Some persons like those music because of the underground violent nature of it, as well as the notoriety. Thus banning it tells the wider public that it is really something horrible or disgusting, which causes the persons that listen to that music to want it even more because it is even more notorious. It won't eliminate the music. You will just see a black market of interest as people record the music on the down low with even more obscurity to their persons and thus intrigue. I agree with that summation. I agree totally with that person. Yeah, Massimo, someone posting very good points over there. I agree totally. And that's the problem with censorship on the whole. That's the problem with censorship on the whole. Because censorship, the statement, I can't remember who said it, cutting out a man's tongue doesn't prove you right. It just prove him wrong. It just proves you're afraid of what he says. So it does, and it doesn't give you more power. It generally gives the person you cut out the tongue of more power. The censorship on the internet, for example, when you ban someone from one social media platform, they're seeing this now with Mr. Tate. You ban him from one platform. What you did now is increase his notoriety. Now more people want to find out about him, and there would always be some other corner on the internet where he could go and exist. And now you chase them out of the regions where more people may have been able to criticize the more negative ideas, and now he's in an echo chamber where all of his people can go and find him there. I wish I got cancelled. That would be the best thing to happen to me. Exactly. So I don't think, first off, even if it could have worked, I don't think that's the right method to tackle it with. I think you're tackling symptom instead of cause. And then I don't think it will work. I just don't. I think you stand a higher chance of making the whole thing more notorious and making it more popular and losing out more in the long run. Tell me what you think. Any comments or questions? That's all I have for now. Any comments or questions before we dive out there? So for those who just jumped in the live late, the topics we covered tonight, we covered talking about, well, a lab, a university out in Boston that took God out of their thoughts and decided it was a good idea to combine the infectiousness of Omicron with the danger of the Alpha variant of COVID, and they made a new hybrid variant of COVID that has an 80% kill rate. So yay for that. So we covered that. And we covered child labor. And finally here, after child labor, we went into free speech out in Jamaica. They're banning the presence or the playing of music depicting illegal practices and negative practices. They're banning them. So yeah, any comments? With this NP court case. Which NP court case is that exactly, Joel? I think we need leadership to inspire change as opposed to relying heavily on laws only. True. I think, though, the problem, roly-poly, the one and only, I think we are misallocating importance. I think the church is necessary. Some societies may try to exchange it with something else, but I think a place of locating your morality outside of the state is absolutely necessary for a country to survive well. And I think problems are created when we attempt to link the morality and the state into one. We end up then with the state being God, the state being the church, the state and the church being one and the same. And the problem, some people think of the state and the church being one and the same and the separation of the powers as only the Catholic Church. And when you're thinking about the Catholic Church and the state, no, I would put that as the religious imperative, the religious push inside of humans. We have that natural religious push. That being combined with our political push. That's what a combination of church and state is. And regardless of what you consider the religion to be and what you consider the politics to be, if you have both of those combined in one, you end up with disasters. That's what communism does. If you look at nearly any one of these authoritarian regimes, the communist style regimes, one of the first things they do in any of the countries they take over is they oppress religions, they oppress the church, because people within a religion are not able to look to the state as the supreme power. They will not obey everything the state tells them. They have a limit on what they would obey from the state. And in order for the state to be God, you cannot have anyone who sees anything above the state. So that's why they always go down to persecuting the religious people. And that's the danger when they are the same, one and the same as the home of religion and the home of politics. You end up in a lot of problems. You end up in a lot of problems. If they say to kill all the people in Central, then what they say is right. There's no outside relative comparison you could make and say, well, this isn't right because so and so said it isn't. No, the state is God, the state is morality. What the state says goes, and that's why Mao over in China could have murdered 100 million plus. Stalin and they could have murdered 50 million plus. That's why they could have done things like that. Their word is the supreme power. You don't actually want that. You see, sometimes in youthful ignorance, I would call it youthful ignorance, we could misaverage the importance of things that have existed for a very long time, and sometimes you underestimate the importance of some of these things at your own peril and at your own risk. All right, this NP business. Let me see what Joel was saying. That NP gas stations court case that threatens closing of branches according to the headlines. 67 gas stations at risk apparently. Joel, I haven't kept up with that. I'd have to go and read up on that. I don't know the intricacies of that at all. As you mentioned that, what do you think about the way politicians persecute, and try to undermine the media? I think that's always been how politicians do. I think that's kind of healthy, to be honest. What they could bad talk and undermine, but once they don't actually try and enact laws to do away with the media. But I think the media and the politicians are supposed to have a kind of adversarial role. I think some of us in modern times got an experience of an incorrect view of that, especially some in the millennial generation, because a lot of us grew up with nearly a decade-long period where the media and the President of the United States, Mr. Barack Obama, were like pals, hand and glove. Horse and rider. That's not actually how it's supposed to be. I think that was some horrible corruption on the part of the US, and they paid for that in the form of Donald Trump. People didn't like that they were being browbeaten by the elites, and they kicked back against that. The media and the politicians are kind of supposed to be at each other's throat, keeping each other more accountable. The media has a lot of power. Politicians have a lot of power. They're supposed to be balancing each other off with that. All right, any further comments or questions, folks? It seems like not. So if not, that's all I have for now. I hope you folks were educated, informed, or entertained on YouTube. There is something. Through all the fascists, which is really socialism, that Mantis Massimo, I think you and I, we get along. You have some understanding on that stuff. Fascists, which is really socialism that embraces corporatism. Mussolini said everything within the state, everything for the state, nothing against the state. Correct. I like that. Many people like to make it seem like fascism and socialism is are on opposite ends of the spectrum. It's the same thing, really and truly. China, I would argue, what China is doing right now is straying more into fascism than communism. In China, they have private companies. It's just that every single company functioning in China, if Disney goes into China, they need someone in their board as a representative of the Communist Party. I think that's kind of more fascism than communism, because you have the private company there. It's just that all the private companies must be subject to the state. What you think about that, Massimo? All right, I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and as usual, it was nice. I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live session tomorrow at 9:15 p.m. Tomorrow being Tuesday. I will see you guys then. Peace, folks. Peace. Laters. See y'all.